Are you ready to lead truly unforgettable workshops that transform the groups that you work with? Well, in this video, I'm going to cover 6 essentials of really exceptional facilitators. And I want to show you how the Exchange Guide Certification Program delivers on all 6 of those essentials. If you're looking to up-level your workshops by either hiring a professional facilitator or by improving as a facilitator yourself, this is going to be the video for you. Well, my name is Josh Freeberg, and I am a certified exchange guide and a meeting facilitator. I work with different organizations and companies to design workshops that elevate all voices, that create greater connection and collaboration to deliver higher productivity and results. If you're interested in improving those types of meetings and gatherings in your organization, you might enjoy subscribing to this channel. Well, I've been a certified Exchange guide for about 4 years now. And recently, Exchange actually redesigned their certification program, and I went through that and just recently re-upped as a certified Exchange guide. And I was really excited about the program because as a facilitator, I've realized that there's these essentials that you really need in that toolkit and in your not only your personal skill improvement, but also in your business building. You really need these tools in your toolkit. And I was so impressed with how the guide certification program delivered on that toolkit. So let's jump in to what I consider to be the 6 essentials that every great facilitator needs. The first essential tool that every great facilitator needs is questions and stories. A whole big collection of truly transformational, generative questions. It's the number one tool in the toolbox. Because see, a facilitator is not a sage. They're not a subject matter expert. They're not a guru. In fact, a great facilitator is a guide or a conduit or a catalyst, right, for creating change. And the first tool that a great facilitator goes to is really terrific questions. This is one of the places where I was really blown away during the guide certification program when they showed us this training they have on the art and science of question design. Really, what are those foundational questions? How do questions function? And not only that, but there were so many resources and tools available to us in the playbooks so that we could design our own questions and really create those positive, appreciative, and generative questions that truly create great learning. So, as a great facilitator, the first tool that you're really going to need, that essential tool you're going to need in your toolbox, is a set of questions. I've been gathering questions for years now. And whenever I come across a really terrific question, I make sure that I'm documenting it, that I'm practicing it, that I'm finding ways to apply that question in my coaching practice as well as in my facilitation of different sorts of events. By the way, if you've ever wondered, how do I make these crazy Zoom calls more interesting? Ask better questions, right? This is one of the ways that we can keep people more engaged in our Zoom meetings as well as our in-person meetings. So the first tool, great questions. The next essential of a terrific facilitator is learning interaction design. Interaction design. Well, what does that mean? Have you ever been leading a meeting, leading a group, and you asked a question? You had 20 people in front of you, 50 people in front of you, and you asked a question and nobody answered. Nobody responded, no hands went up. The reason is because everybody in there was already programmed to an interaction pattern that had been designed. Now, it may not have been designed on purpose, but if you were standing in front of a group of people that were in rows and you were on an elevated platform under lights with a microphone on, the interaction was designed for them to sit and passively listen. So when you ask a question, they're not ready for that. They're already programmed into an interaction pattern that doesn't work for that. What we can do though is we can design different interaction patterns where people move into one-on-one interviews. These are the types of conversations that people go, oh, I know how to behave in an interview. And before you know it, they've started talking. We can get into small groups of 3 or 4 and have connection conversations. This is an interaction pattern where when it's designed correctly, people go, oh, I'm supposed to share ideas. I'm supposed to listen and appreciate other people's ideas. And we can use both of those and other types of interaction design to move people into large group shares, where they're suddenly more than happy to share in the large group of 20 or 50 or 200 or 2,000. But we need really good interaction design. Well, if you've never learned this, where are you going to find out how to do these types of interaction design? And this is one of the great things I thought that the guide certification program delivered on during the section on facilitation mastery in the playbook. In this playbook, it was so cool because we broke down the 3 stages of an exchange choreography, the way that we describe those interaction designs, gave us great video instruction, clear ways of how to do these 3 stages of an exchange, including all of the steps and important things to be remembering while you're doing this. One of the most important things that I learned really well this last time through the training was on the importance of enrollment, which is actually inviting people to participate fully and sharing with them why we're doing what we're doing. So this was another place where I feel like the guide certification really delivered on that second essential, which is creating those interaction patterns, those systems of creating psychological safety that create generative experiences and are designed to provide connection and collaboration in your next workshop. Well, the third essential that I think that every facilitator needs is resources. And I'm talking about tangible resources like slides, like workbooks, like agenda, actual agendas. We're going to start at 9 a.m. and we're going to go till 9:15 doing this. And then we're going to have this until 9:45. And this is how the different conversations are going to go. I'm going to show you 2 different tools that I've learned about that are so helpful, but for years I've been designing all of this, the music playlists, the agendas, the workbooks, the slide deck. And these are going to be really important for you to use. These are the types of things that make your participants feel really comfortable. It helps draw in different learning styles. And these are the tools that set apart your novice facilitators from your real expert facilitators. And you've probably seen that if you've been in a room where it felt a little thrown together, or been in another room where it felt very clearly prepared, practiced, rehearsed, and executed. So how are you going to get these resources? You certainly can design them yourself, but let me show you a quick shortcut that you may want to take advantage of. So the first place that I want to take you is to the resources tab in the Exchange learning environment that I got to go through. And again, if you're not looking to do this, but are thinking through how do I create these for my own self when I have a meeting coming up, or if I'm working with a facilitator, how do I make sure they have these tools available? That's what I want you to be noticing here. But the first thing that came up for me that I so appreciated was the slides. I hate designing slides. In fact, I've gotten some really choice feedback on the slides that I have created on my own. And here under our resources tab, it was so terrific because we had done for you slides. They were all ready to go. I was able to go into these slides, and right away they have the questions that might be part of an interaction pattern. They have the instructions, clear instructions for giving to the participants in our event. So I love the done for me slides. I also really appreciated the done for us worksheets, right? That there were worksheets available that we could go right in and edit, change those worksheets, create them for your participants. These are important tangibles that you're going to want to have for designing your next workshop. And then the last one, and this is probably one of the most powerful tools. I use this in every event that I design, and one that you're going to want to include in your, again, virtual toolbox is some way to create agendas. And to be able to move things around on the fly while you're doing an event. And so this is a tool called Session Lab. And within Session Lab, there are tons of templates that have been created. I do all of my session design inside of these. And what's really great about that is it means that if I did something really terrific at one event and I want to borrow that to use in another event, I could simply copy and paste it. These session labs have different modules for everything from an introduction to a choreography of question asking, or you may have like a speaker presenter that you're going to have, and you want to set aside time for that and have notes as the meeting facilitator for that. All of this can be used and shared within the different important stakeholders for your event. So I think the next most important essential for a great facilitator is that essential of resources, right? Do you have the tangibles that you need to create and design a really terrific workshop? Well, there's a couple other pieces that I think often get missed. Those first three were really obvious. You think of a facilitator, you think of them leading great questions, you think of them guiding experiential learning processes, right? And designing really great interaction patterns. And you think about the tools, the tangibles that they use, things like slides and agendas and worksheets. That's obvious. But what about what happens behind the scenes? Let's talk a little bit about that. The next thing that I think is really essential for a great facilitator is practice. Now, practice is tricky because, you can practice a speech, something that's going to be passively consumed. You can practice that on your own in front of a camera like this. But how do you practice creating experiential learning without a crowd? How do you practice giving instructions to people on how to function and behave and know that it's going to go well without feedback from having done it for real? This is one of the places where I highly recommend that you find a community, a place where you can actually practice your facilitation and not just do it on live patients, as it were. And this is one of the places where the Xchange Guide Certification program really excelled. The live portion of the program, and by live I mean happening in real time, happened on Zoom over the course of 12 weeks. Now, 6 of those weeks were instruction, actually explaining how things were done, and they were experiential learning. They were learning experiences for the students. But on the off weeks, right? So that was happening every other week. On the off weeks was real practice, where we would be put into small groups of 3 or 4 and actually have an opportunity to lead, to guide a learning experience, right? To actually guide an active learning cycle, to go through the process of presenting a question, then giving the instructions on how the interaction would work, including things like the enrollment, and then actually having people go in and do a quick mock learning experience, then come back out of it, be welcomed back by the facilitator, that sort of thing. And then most important, and this is one of the most important things about learning, is everybody got a feedback cycle. They were actually able to receive feedback on how they did in facilitating a real experience. They actually got to do that. And so this is super cool because this is one of the things that I think so often gets missed in facilitation training. I think the training is incredible, where we get to watch videos, where we get to read through, hundreds of pages of material, watch 40 plus hours of training videos. Awesome. All real time, or all on your own, self-paced learning, super terrific. And elevated when we get to practice it for real with real people. I started doing this very early in my facilitation. Was I started taking every opportunity I could to practice this, to do facilitation in low stakes environments, so that when the time came to lead them in high stakes environments, I was prepared. That brings us to our fifth essential that I think is really important, and that is coaching and community. Coaching and community. Do you have a community that, as a facilitator, that you can lean on so that when the time comes, like, hey, I need help, or I've been invited to facilitate in an industry I'm unfamiliar with, or I've been invited to facilitate something bigger than I've ever taken on before? Do you have people that you can reach out to? And if you're watching this video because you're like, hey, I'm starting to realize I don't really want to be facilitating this meeting I have coming up, but I would like to hire somebody to facilitate this meeting. First of all, hi, I'm Josh. Call me. I'd be happy to help you. But more importantly, ask your facilitator, who are you leaning on? What other resources are you leaning on to design this event? Right? When we talk about facilitation, we're fundamentally talking about a different learning methodology. We're talking about a different philosophy of teaching or pedagogy. And it's one that says the intelligence of brilliance is in the room and is found in the group. There's a group genius, an additional level of intelligence and learning and wisdom available that's greater than the sum of the individuals. Well, Lone Rangers shouldn't be guiding something like that. Instead, you want people who are tapped deeply into community and who are receiving coaching. And if you are a facilitator, you should be tapped deeply into a community and should be receiving coaching. Well, what's that look like in Xchange? All of our participants that go through our guide certification program now have 1 year of support that comes after that. It includes things like our design studios, which is really just group coaching for the individuals who sign up for that. It's an incredible way for you to say, hey, I have an event coming up. I have a workshop that I'm designing and I need help putting it together. Or I have a retreat that I'm putting together, any sort of conscious convening that we're wanting to put together, and we want help and resource. We have experts available to help. I've taken advantage of this several times. I think having a community and coaching is super important and something that the guide certification delivers in spades. Now, let's talk about the last, most underappreciated, never talked about, but absolutely critical part of facilitation that you need to have as part of your, and I'm going to say something you haven't heard me say yet today, your facilitation business. You may be the most fabulous facilitator in the world. You may be able to take people to new and ecstatic places of learning and transformation and connection. But if you don't have people to do that with, you don't have a business. You're not going to be doing much facilitation. And this is why it's absolutely critical that you include business development as an essential for you as a facilitator. By the way, if you're interviewing facilitators to hire for your meeting, do they seem like business professionals? Do they have a clear path for how they're going to take you from one place to another? Do they have a clear menu of services that they can offer you? Now, even if it's custom, even if it's very bespoke and boutique, absolutely, they should still have a clear understanding of business. And you should know how they are going to be able to work for you to deliver on the promises that they have. But boy, in the facilitation world, I hear a whole lot of talk about how to design the meeting. I hear a whole lot of talk about asking great questions, very little on how to actually build your business. Well, let me show you a few things that I think you're going to want to get your hands on if you want to grow in terms of business development. So the first thing that you're going to need in terms of business development is really a cohesive strategy and plan for generating leads. That would be, prospects for your facilitation business. You're going to want a comprehensive strategy for that. And the first place that I thought was really great that we received as part of our guide certification program was the Magnetic Customer Attraction course. And this little mini course focuses on the inner game, really understanding where we're at when we are selling something, making sure that we've taken care of our thoughts and our inner understanding of the value that we bring. Talking about strategic generosity, a really great way for people to experience their way into working with you, and how you can use generosity to put yourself in environments where your ideal customer might be. And then the last part is actual sales conversion. Closing is a skill that can be learned. And so having a strategy, knowing how you're going to generate leads, how you're going to get in front of your ideal customers, and then how you're going to close those opportunities when they come up, these are really important skills. But along with that, you're also going to need some tangibles for your business. And I thought this was, and by the way, again, if you're not choosing to, follow up with me about how you could be a part of this Exchange Guide certification program, that's fine. I want you to take these as inspiration for growing your own facilitation business. But there's great things that we can do for branding, right? We know we're going to need a website. We know we're going to need logos, and even marketing copy as we're communicating with people about how we do what we do. Do you have a comprehensive, clear business development plan? This is the sixth essential for truly great facilitators. Hey, I've shared a lot of things today. I want to just briefly touch on them one more time, and then I want to give you a couple things that you could do coming out of this video. You're going to need 6 essentials for your facilitation business. Great questions and stories. Second, you need interaction designs. You need great resources, tangible resources you can use in your business. Behind the scenes, you're going to need real practice at delivering on these facilitation experiences. You're going to need coaching and a community around you to support you, and you're going to need business development so that you can actually get hired to do the work of facilitation. Hey, if you're interested in learning more about how the Exchange Guide certification program might be right for you, I'd love for you to connect with me. You can send me a direct message, or in the description below, I have a link where you could schedule a consultation call with me where I can describe to you more about how the Exchange Guide certification program works and some of the other learning opportunities with Exchange. The future of meetings is going to be in conscious facilitation, where we are creating learning experiences for people in connected and collaborative environments. Great facilitators are going to need these 6 essentials, and the Guide certification program might be a great way for you to get them.